Hey, everybody. This is Rudy Mejia.
And I'm Larry Wagner. We're here to talk about working with seniors. We're from Leave the Key Home Buyers, and
Yes.
seniors are people we deal with all the time. Rudy, what
Yep.
percentage of people do you think you talk to who are seniors?
A lot. Maybe about 80% of the people I speak to are seniors.
That's a lot. I would have guessed 3/4. Seniors have special needs, and I don't know if everyone in this industry understands that. Um, when seniors are transitioning to a new home, it's not always by choice. Sometimes they're moving into an independent or assisted living facility or nursing home.
Mhm.
They're leaving their home they may have been in for 50 years, maybe longer. Matter of fact, I just sold my parents' home a week ago, and they own that house since 1957, and here it is, 2022.
Wow.
So it's a long time.
Yeah.
And uh, sometimes children push their parents to leave their home as well. And again, they've
Right.
raised the kids, they've watched the grandkids play in the yard, they've had all the holidays there. It's a very traumatic thing to have to do. And they don't always have the physical ability to make this move. It requires a lot. And the
Mhm.
house is typically filled with stuff. And
Right.
to them, there's stuff.
Well, they've been having it for so long in their lives, right? They've
Absolutely
collected so much.
correct. And there's two types of stuff. There's the stuff that's in the attic in the basement, the
Mhm.
garage and the shed. And then there's the stuff that's out in the break fronts, the Kiro cabinets, and all those other places. And we buy a house with tons of stuff, but they find it very difficult to part with this stuff. And it's rough. Another thing is when you're dealing with seniors, you have to understand. I joke that seniors hear more slowly. Um, with
So
age, we process
slowly,
more.
like they process things slower.
Exactly. You
Yeah.
process, they process slower. Next year I'm officially a senior, and
Next year.
I talk much slower like now. I'm naturally a very fast talker. I typically
Yeah. You
talk like
usually
this,
talk fast.
but I don't when I'm working with seniors. I'm always conscious of moderating my speech,
Mhm.
and it's important. It's important for them to know that you're accommodating them, and also to take the pressure off this whole transition. We know it's traumatic. I know it's traumatic for my parents. They had moved into an independent living facility by choice, but I'm the one who pushed them,
Mhm.
and without the support of my brother and sister. But that's another story, which just goes to show not everyone's always on the same
Right.
page,
No,
which makes
I
it even more
agree.
stressful. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear that often too. There's always one or two, I wouldn't call them issues, but roadblocks.
Yep.
Some of the family members decide they don't want to sell, or I often ask, if you were to sell the property today to me, to anybody, would there be anyone a little upset that you didn't run it by them before you decided to sell? And
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
well, I was just going to say, usually I get a, well, yes, but no. There are some people who might say something, but then they're the decision makers. They're the ones who own the property. Their sons, their daughters, they might not be on the deed, so they'll still end up considering their thoughts, but they won't base their decision off of their kids.
I'm going to disagree with you on that one, Rudy. I think a lot of times the kids are the decision makers. Mom and dad are legally the decision makers, but
Mhm.
they kowtow to the kids often. Not always, but oftentimes. And that becomes a problem, I find, because as you said, not everyone's on the same page. And back to my own personal story, and that is my parents moved out about 8 years ago. We
Mhm.
sold the house last week, as I said. Why? Because my brother lived in Europe and he'd come back 3 months a year to the US and he'd use my parents' house as a staging area to go visit friends and family and so on. And then finally, he retired 2 years ago and he was living in their house full time. So he did not want us to sell the house.
Wow.
My parents wanted the house sold. My
Mhm.
sister and I wanted the house sold, but my brother didn't. And my parents gave in to my brother. So he, in essence, became the decision maker. He finally bought a new house, and now within a few weeks, I had the house sold. But as you said, it's tough because you don't always know who the decision maker is. Legally, it's the parents, but functionally, not always. Functionally, not always. And
Do you
again,
think the details of the home are important?
no. But when you're dealing with a senior selling their home, you
Mhm.
have to deal with them on an emotional level. I'm sure you do this when you handle all the calls, just so people understand. When people call in to us at Leave the Key Home Buyers, they will reach Rudy or someone from his staff who will do the initial discussion to see if we're a good fit and if we really are of assistance to the caller, to the homeowner. And
Yeah.
if we are, he then sets up an appointment with someone from our acquisitions team. It could be me, it could be Miguel or someone else.
Right.
And we're going to physically talk to either in more detail, or we'll come to the house, which is our preference, to actually see the home and meet you one-on-one and get to know the homeowner. And so whether it's a senior or not a senior, the process is exactly the same.
Yeah.
It's really important. We try to be true professionals in the way we do business, but I've had it where the homeowner would sit in the kitchen and say, you walk around the house. I could walk around the house in 5 minutes and get everything I need.
Very trusting. That's very trusting.
Yeah, well, I get the big tchotchkes don't fit in my pockets. So anyway, usually I'll give them some literature to look at while I'm walking around the house, at least using their time while I'm using mine. If I walk through the house with the homeowner, it can take 30, 40 minutes because everything's a story.
But is a typical senior, when you're giving the example of a younger person versus a senior citizen, so is the time similar? You're spending only 10, 15 minutes with.
Great question. I typically spend about 45 minutes to an hour on an appointment when I go through, and I think most of my team does as well. But if we're working with a senior, it's never less than an hour. It's usually 1 to 2 hours. Sometimes
is it because you want to listen to them?
Exactly.
You want to be able to take your time and explain things. Okay. I mean, it makes sense.
It's old school, of which I've always been a fan of the older generation. When I was 13, I found I was closer to my friends' parents than my actual friends. I related to that generation. Here I am, that generation now. And now I relate to the generation who are 80 years old. I'll get to that in a little bit too. But I typically spend at least typically 1 to 2 hours. And it's not because I need to spend 1 to 2 hours for me to get the information I need to determine an offer for the home. It's what the homeowner needs, what the senior citizen needs to get a sense of me, and for them to make sure I got, more importantly, a sense of them. And when dealing with people of the older generation, they work on trust. Their decisions aren't always intellectual. They're much more emotionally oriented. And dealing with somebody you trust and like is much more important. And our goal is to have them trust us. We are a trustworthy company. It's like I'm trying to pull the wool over their eyes, but meeting a stranger and getting them to trust you, sometimes it's a process. When I deal with younger people, it's numbers. Give me the number. What's the number? Very often that's
it's a big difference when you're dealing with the senior.
You find that as well.
I do. I do, because when I'm on the phone with a younger person, like you said, it's all about the numbers. They want to know, they might have more experience and might have had a rental property in their lifetime, or currently they might have an income property. So they're a little bit knowledgeable about real estate. They know the numbers, or they know how to calculate things a lot quicker, and know you don't need to fluff anything up for them.
Right. Correct.
Versus you dealing with seniors, or it's me dealing. I do have to take my time a little bit, be more patient with them.
Absolutely.
I have to importantly, I have to understand their needs. That's
100%.
In my opinion.
Yes.
Something very, very important.
Again, their needs, well, they need to sell a house. There's so much more than selling a house to them. It's so often, I think I may bring this up a little bit later in more detail, but it's about their stuff is equally important to the house. It's about understanding, as I said, who they are, what they are, where they're going, the next stage in their life, and can we assist with that? And there's a lot of things we do to assist. Again, I think we'll address that a little bit later. I think I have a plan in my head how we should have this dialogue.
I have a question about that. Well, I think earlier you mentioned you have experience with helping seniors.
Oh yeah.
I might have just, from what you were saying, I might have made it back up in my head, but I know you have experience with seniors.
I do. It's kind of interesting because actually when I came out of college, I became a cabinet maker. I wasn't thinking of that until just very moment. And I dealt with the generation older than me. We sold very expensive custom furniture.
Yeah.
And I was 22 to 32 years old when I own the business. I sold it when I was 32. And I'm just thinking, I'm just having wonderful memories. I'm having little flashbacks in my head. Part of me, it was an incredible time in my life. My dream was to
That's good.
be a cabinet maker. So anyway, and it's very successful. I had a very large shop, had 30 people on staff. It was a great business, but I was the one who met the clients face to face. That was my job. And my clients were a generation older than I was. They were my parents' age. And then I sold that business. I went to work with my father. He was an insurance salesman. And then we came together, financial advisors. And our clients were my father's age. As a matter of fact, I sold a business 40 years ago now, because I've been doing this for 15 years. In the last roughly 10 years, I was transitioning into real estate, last 9 years. And my average client was 80 years old. And I had 880 clients who were 80, average age of 80 at the time I sold my business. So again, I'm 60, right now I'm 64. Again, they were a whole generation older than me, basically. This goes back 5 years or so, 4 years. So those are always the people I've dealt with.
Did you speak to them about their property or just about their finances or?
No, it's funny you say that.
Like
I
what they could
spent,
yeah, go ahead.
as a in the financial industry, I monitored all my hours like I do now. I would spend 5% of my day actually doing income producing activities, dealing with one of my clients, dealing with a product that will make me money. The other 95% of my day was about a third of that was spent running the business, and the other 2/3 was spent helping my clients, doing things like helping them design an addition for their home, picking a car, discussing financing of the car, dealing with their children's problems and family issues and estate planning. And those are the things we did, which generated no income for us. But since we were trusted, it took us so little time to actually earn enough money to make a very good living that I could devote the rest of my day. I could devote, half my day to just helping them, and with no concern about making any money for that half a day. It was a really cool way to make a living. And here we are doing the same thing. We work with seniors a lot. But while I was in that business, I also got some designations. I got a CSA. I became a certified senior advisor. And I got a CLTC, which is a certification in long-term care, because those are things that would help me as an advisor for the senior community. And I'm in this business now. This is our 15th year. I decided to seek out any designation that would relate to what we do. And there actually is one, which surprised me. And I just completed it this year. And I became an STS, a senior transition specialist, where I work as a company, right? It's exactly what we do.
That's exactly what we do.
Seniors transition to their new home, their new environment. And it was so perfect. And it was a fascinating study. I knew a lot of the things from my 30 years as a financial advisor and so on. And again, the 14 and a half years of, 14 years doing this before I went to the program. But it's not to say there was nothing to learn. I buttressed what I knew, and I learned new techniques, new things I wouldn't have thought of, and nuances, and those go a long way. So I'm very pleased that there was actually such a designation. I don't know anyone who has it, but I was very pleased.
I'm happy you were able to accomplish that. It just shows that you are someone who wants to help as much as possible.
Yes.
So
we do. As a company, we do.
Me too. I do. I love helping and educating them.
Right.
And I think that's a big part of what we do is we try to help. If we can't buy their homes, we try to help them by at least figuring out what the next step would be for them.
Oh, all the time. All the time. Yes. Let's talk about buying their homes and what things they have to deal with. Things that come into play. Again, typically the house is older, right? Isn't that what you're finding, Rudy?
Yes. No updates on the property.
Right.
The home has maybe seen some new electrical, some new plumbing, a new roof, new windows.
Maybe.
Yeah. But those are just things that are, maybe they deteriorate a little quicker than the kitchen and the bathrooms do. If it's functional, there's no updating on them.
Right. People that I find a lot of times as you get older, you don't have the wherewithal, and I don't mean financially, wherewithal from an emotional / energy perspective. My parents' house needed to be redone. Hence, we sold it to a flipper.
How badly was it?
It wasn't.
How much?
It had the original kitchen from 1955. They bought the house when it was 2 years old, but they had refaced it in 1978. Whoa. So it was a
1970s.
1955 kitchen, 1978 refacing.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I was in college. 1978 refacing, and that's the kitchen they had. It was terrible. They had two drawers in the whole kitchen, two drawers in the whole kitchen. It was just a terrible
Wow.
layout.
In the 70s, only 2 drawers?
Only two drawers. In the 50s, that's when it was built.
Oh.
And so that was not good. How my mother functioned in that kitchen, I have no idea. I have about 20 drawers in my kitchen. I'm lucky as a cabinet maker, I built my own cabinets, so I was able to do anything I wanted.
I wanted to add another thing that I hear about too, is the stairs.
Oh,
Sometimes the stairs are an issue, right? They've lived in this house so long. When they were young, the stairs
Yep.
weren't a big deal.
Yep.
But
Yep.
and I'm thinking about this now. Now that I've been in this seat for so long, now I'm thinking to myself, I need to buy a house that's a ranch style home. You know, because I'm thinking if I'm going to stay there for the rest of my life,
Right.
I don't want to have to deal with the stairs. So just little things like that that I'm thinking about now
You
that I
have
wouldn't
30
have thought about
years.
if I was not here.
Rudy,
You know?
I got 30 years on you. I have a lot of stairs. It will change. It will.
Did you
My
think
wife and I
about-
want to move to a ranch, but
Mhm.
we're a whole generation older than you are.
Did you think
So-
about that when you bought it? Did you think about,
Oh no.
I'm going to
No.
be 60, 65, almost 65. While you were 30, you were what I'm asking you, were you thinking about, I'm going to be 65 one day and these stairs are going to be a big deal?
We bought this house that had a one-story apartment for my wife's parents. I didn't like the house at all. It was the only house we found with a usable apartment. I said, we'll make do with the house. But
Mhm.
now we want to move down to the apartment and have my daughter move into the house.
The apartment's
would
on
be really-
one level?
The apartment's one level and it's ground level.
Ground
So
level.
with no stairs to get in. So it's perfect for seniors. I want to transition from the main house to the apartment. That'll be my
Funny-
transition. from
Funny
a-
you should mention transition,
Yeah.
because that's another thing I hear with when I'm talking to people on the phone, especially seniors, that they're transitioning to a smaller home or a
Yes.
senior living facility.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. It's so funny. I found in the 80s when I had my cabinet shop,
Mhm.
seniors were transitioning, people my age getting bigger homes because as their kids got married, they want to have more room so the kids and grandkids come visit. I'm finding
Okay.
that's not the case anymore. People are now transitioning to smaller homes when they get to be in their 60s and 70s or older. And it's funny how it's a, I don't know, it's a I guess a
Circle of life?
generational mentality. What's
Oh,
that?
generation. Okay, I was going somewhere else. I said circle of life. You know,
A
you
circle? No, not so much because
buy-
the same circle, it's just a different set of decades. And that generation, we don't want to increase our size of our blueprint anymore.
right.
Maybe it's environmental issues, who knows? But you're right. But they deal with a lot of issues when
They do.
when they're selling the house. The emotional component to getting rid of their, back to that word, stuff again, very, very difficult. Going through my parents' house, I don't want to say it was torturous. It was melancholic. I was with my brother and sister, part of it, and we look and go through the stuff and have fond memories.
Mhm.
And then other stuff we know we're not going to take. We can't fill our house with their memories and our memories. There's too much stuff, and we're just letting it go.
Are you- and this is a transition to the next topic because it was a good segue. Do you, when you find that you needed to, when you find out that you are of a certain age and you need to transition to assisted living, do you usually depend on other people to help you, like your kids, or should we point them in a direction like where the senior transition specialist, the certification you got,
Right.
who do you feel they should go to for? Obviously, the family is going to talk about them moving into a facility. That's important.
Correct.
But is the next step for them to reach out to someone like us and explain to them what the process after they've decided, yes, they're going to move
Sure.
to a facility?
Yes, I'd like to think we bring something to the table
Yeah.
that their own family doesn't. But the family surely brings something to the table that we don't. It's not like it's an either or.
Mhm.
Ideally, it's a both, but it's not always a both. Sometimes the kids aren't involved at all. We're dealing with a hoarder right now whose daughter wants nothing to do with her moving.
Yeah.
She cannot move. Her house is filled about 5 feet high. I calculated she has 10,000 feet. I'm not going to use the word stuff because it's not stuff. It's less than stuff. 10,000 cubic feet. Being an ex-cabinet maker, I look at dimensions, and she wants to talk about getting a storage facility. 10,000 cubic feet, there aren't
Wow.
stored. That's a warehouse.
Yeah, that's a
And
big space.
that's a big space. And I'd say 95% of it's not of tremendous value. I'll leave it at that. And it's very upsetting to me.
Oh,
And the daughter wants no part of it.
Hoarders are a little bit extreme. Not
They
every,
are.
I do speak with hoarders, but not as often as I speak.
No.
I've with someone who doesn't have that many items in their home,
Right.
or they've
Right.
they've thought about the future, so they've removed some of those bigger items out of their home, and all that they're left with is, a
Right.
dresser, a chest, or drawer, kitchen stuff. So family is important if you're needing help to move those items out of the home.
Yep.
But if there isn't family around, there are vendors who deal with seniors,
There are.
for specifically for seniors. There are vendors that are helping you move items out of the property that are specializing in seniors,
Yep.
clean
Sure.
out crews.
Yep.
Those kind of folks, they're around. This isn't new to everybody. There's talk about, well, I mean, we talk about it a lot, but we know some of those vendors.
Absolutely. We keep a list of them. So when I'm
Yeah.
working with seniors, I don't know if you're aware of this, Rudy. When I'm working with seniors, I just did, a matter of fact, 2 days ago, and I just referred out a move out company and a tag sale company to somebody. She wants to do a tag sale, and I know the company, they're reputable and so on, because so many aren't. And then a move out company, which will move her stuff. Actually, 3 companies. One that actually specializes in moving with seniors. Again, they understand there's a special, gentle touch when dealing with seniors. It's different, and you have to understand it's on so many levels. It's different. And we also then recommended a clean out company, because we weren't a good fit for her. House was in really very good shape. It wasn't even that dated for a person of her age. But so I told her, we're not the best buyer. She should list it retail. We actually recommended a realtor as well. So we brought a realtor to the scene. We bought a tag sale company. We brought in a moving company that specialized with seniors. And then we brought in a clean out company to clean out the house.
Is this the same one you brought? This might be a different one, but I remember you bringing a person who specializes in auctions.
No, that was someone different. Correct.
That's someone different. But we also know someone who would come and auction up some of their items, or we've even ended up buying some of their items.
We'll do that oftentimes. Sometimes the homeowner cannot deal with these people we just listed.
Mhm.
Even if we bring them there, even if we call them, make the appointments, again, that emotional fortitude, that energy is not there to even watch it happen. So we actually will buy the contents of their home. We'll say, we'll give you X thousands of dollars for everything in your home. And sometimes we'll actually be able to sell it, make a few dollars. Typically, we just donate it. We buy it, it makes them feel a little bit better. We donate it. In that case, if I'm buying it, I'll get a tax deduction. But other times we actually, when we buy a house filled with stuff, my wife is not happy about this at all. But there's an entire room in our house, our den, which used to be the room with my pool table, which now has a top on it, because that's our sorting table. We actually clean all the clothes out of the house, all the things that we think are of any value that could be donated. We sort through everything. We then donate them to the appropriate charities. We just had a house in Jericho. So it's a high-end house, high-end homeowners. And she had 2 Mother of the Bride dresses that she said she paid thousands of dollars for. And I wasn't about to just donate them to Lupus. We did a lot of stuff, goes to Lupus, Boys and Girls Club, and so on. But I gave those to a special charity. Also, I had another woman who was an executive at, I've got AIG, I think it was, which isn't around anymore. And she was an executive there, but a while back. And she had her clothes, which may be 10 years old, some still in style. And we donated those to a charity. that gives clothes to young people,
That's great.
women going for interviews, things like that, but they don't have the proper dress clothes. So we
Right.
try to sort all this stuff out. And for those, I don't ever take a charitable deduction. I feel like it's sort of tainting the charitable move.
That's
If I'm going to
that's
buy the
that's very
stuff,
honorable of you.
but we really try to make it as easy as possible. Also, I like to be environmentally conscious and not throw things out if I don't have to.
Yeah.
I go through people's homes oftentimes, and I'll literally leave with cartons of paper, which I then bring to my curb during recycling day.
Mhm.
I just don't want it to get thrown in the dumpster.
Mhm.
My wife thinks I'm nuts, but she's my wife. That's her job. So,
I think you're
so
nuts.
she thinks so. That's my job. But as you can see, there's so many things that you
They
have to
are.
be aware of.
You have to be aware of. Exactly.
As a company, and whenever we hire, when you hire people on your team and we hire people in the company wide, it's not the knowledge we're hiring. It's the spirit, the mindset, the
I agree.
compassion.
I agree.
Right? Seniors deserve special attention.
And they need the truth.
They need the truth. They need the truth.
They need someone to be honest and just upfront with them.
But gently. But gently. But gently. And what's interesting, at our weekly meeting every Tuesday at 10 o'clock, at 10:30,
we talk about it all the time.
We talk about it all the time. And if any of us, we have a segment in our meeting, which is, what did you learn from clients? It's a segment that comes up. It's like, I think, the third segment of a meeting. And what you learn this week from clients, and we share every week. So everybody who's client facing will understand the things we learn. And I'm constantly learning things from our homeowners, from our seniors.
Same here.
Right? As much as we think we know a lot and we've been doing this for a long time, there's always more ideas, more thoughts, more ways to handle a situation. Like buying the contents of a home is we only started doing more recently. And I found it's received so well. And
we do pay attention to their needs. We pay attention to their emotions. We are doing our best to, circling back to what we were talking about in the beginning, we try to find out their needs.
Right.
And so
on that note, oftentimes, so often, I'll go into a home and they'll say, Larry, I just met with someone from another company. He was in and out of the house in 10 minutes. Because you've been here an hour already, or an hour and a half already. And they say that with such gratitude. Oftentimes they're alone. They want the companionship during this appointment. They don't need to spend the hour, 2 or 3 with us.
That's true.
For us to learn. They want the companionship. And then we'll get on the phone. Also, we call people afterwards. Oftentimes we're constantly in contact with our homeowners after they move. See how they're doing, how they've transitioned, past tense, meaning the actual move is the transition, the first part of transition, but now the new part of transition is actually settling into where they are.
Yeah. Yes, you're right. We are patient with them. And not only that, but once we're done with the appointments, I've noticed since the beginning, since we started working with seniors, and that seems to be like from the very beginning, we brought it up in the meetings, in our weekly meetings, how our experiences were with folks that we met with. A lot of the folks who you met with, specifically you, Larry, they would say that you are very patient with them, that you spent the time to explain things with them, and they might have talked to somebody else. They might have had another investor in the house.
Yep.
And they were in and out in 10 minutes.
Yep.
So,
and they'll comment to me all the time.
I get that
I really
feedback.
appreciate your staying here and talking with me. And I learned what we're saying from dealing with people.
Right.
It's just a matter of listening and understanding and feeling and remembering and being empathetic and being sympathetic and truly making a connection. It's all about making a connection.
Yes.
And seniors deserve special attention. As a company, when we hire anybody, your department or any other department, if they're client facing in any way, shape, or form, they have to meet our corporate culture. Exactly. And this is who we are. This is who I've been my entire working life since I'm 22 years old. So for 42 years of my life, I've been dealing with seniors. Just the definition of seniors has moved up a little bit, but I've been dealing with seniors. And I'll say the next generation. And it's something that I've just learned to do. And I think it's really just innate in me. And as a
Mhm.
result, when we tend to hire people like ourselves. And you're a classic example. And all the time, when I see people, they tell me how wonderful Rudy was on the phone, how wonderful Joanne is on the phone, whomever. And it's really nice
Yeah.
to even when you smile just like that at our meetings every week when I say that.
Oh, thank you. No.
So and it's really
But
important.
it's genuine. I mean, I was raised
Yeah.
by my parents. I have both my parents, and they just taught me to be. They taught me most importantly to respect my peers. So I
You mean in this case, your elders.
respect my elders, and
Yeah.
so yes, that's it. You know, from when I was a kid, they taught me respect your elders,
Right.
and I take that personally because I feel like I don't want it to, I don't want some stranger talking to my mom in a demeaning way or in a very hurry up, I'm just trying to buy your house.
Right.
There's no feeling there, there's no emotion to the whole transaction. And I would like for there to be some sort of connection, patience, explain things thoroughly to them because it's important. I think being patient is a very important part of working with seniors.
I'll watch a senior the cashier at the supermarket,
Mhm.
and they're going through the pocketbook, getting out their money more slowly, counting out the change. And you have the young 17-year-old cashier just like getting so
In the
frustrated,
background, yeah, tapping
antsy.
his foot and
Yeah, and they don't understand. One day, if they're lucky, that will be them. And if they're lucky enough to
mm,
become a senior, and if you think about it that way, suddenly become a little bit more future empathetic. We just
right,
discussed empathy, so planning to be empathetic. But it's
right.
it's it's a big part of what we do. We
It
work
is.
very hard
It's
to
huge.
understand. It's huge. So, but if you're a senior and you're looking to sell your
Yes,
home, quite frankly, if you're not a senior and you're looking to sell your home as well, please reach out to us. We'd love to help anyone
please.
looking to sell their home, whether we're the ones who buy it or just help you in any sort of transition and moving forward. We'd love to be of service. Rudy,
Well
thank you
said.
very much for this discussion.
Yeah, thank you for those who finished the video up to this point. I know we like to explain things like we were talking about earlier. We like to explain things properly. So if you have any questions, again, my name is Rudy,
And I'm Larry.
and we're with Leave the Key Home Buyers. Thanks, guys.